So, just when you think back, to the um, late 50s, early 60s, and the kind of amenities that were available to people, the conveniences that were um, available to people in their homes, for their personal day-to-day use, um, were much different, much different, you know, compared to, the kind of modern society that we are living, or many people are living in today, including myself. I was born in an era where, um, the kitchen was not built onto the house. You know, I, the toilet was um, was a couple meters away from the house, so to speak. I think in some countries it was called the outhouse. I grew up in an era where, a time period where we used wood fire for the most part. I would say maybe 98% of the time it was wood fire, right? To cook our meals and to do what else was required for a fire. Um, I grew up in a time where, walking to school or going to school, we went to school barefoot. Um, Everyone was barefoot, and that was not a big issue. So times were so much different compared, when it's compared to today's modern society that some of us are living in right now. And today I want to talk about a piece of a utensil or a container that was found in many homes back in Jamaica. Um, I'm sure this will bring back a lot of memories for those of you who had to use this. But for many individuals, this might be new. This might be new to you. And so today I want to talk about the chimney. In some countries, it was called the potty, and there's a more vulgar term. I'm gonna use the word vulgar. Um, People would call it the piss pot. I never call it that. That was kind of too much of a stretch for me to use that kind of word. Yeah. So as a child growing up, this container, the chimney or the potty, whatever you want to call it, was a common staple in most homes. And part of the reason for that, I think, especially in the rural areas where, you know, of Jamaica, and especially where I grew up, um, you know, most homes never had a toilet or a bathroom attached to the house, right? For showering, you may be standing outside around the corner of a house, using what we call then the big bath pan. It's for like a big zinc container thing, pan, or you know, to have your shower in. Some people would use plastic buckets or whatever was whatever was available. Yeah, so the bathroom was not. Most homes never had a bathroom per se, right? The bathroom was anywhere you you wanted to be, right? Some people would, if they had a functioning toilet, outdoor, toilet, um, just like there's the word for the vulgar word for the toilet. Back home, some people would call it the outhouse or the toilet. They would call it the shit house. So some people would actually, the toilet in some ways became um, an area for double duty, if you know what I mean. It was used for its main purpose, but but at times people would bring the bath pan or whatever container there would be that was required for showering, that they would use to shower or to catch a bath with, or bring it in the toilet to you know as long as the toilet was big enough and it had a door on it, or at least maybe if it never had a proper door, maybe a piece of cloth to to offer some kind of privacy, people would have their shower in the toilet. Anyway, let's get back to the meat of the matter. We're not talking about the toilet today, but it relates to the subject of the potty. So most homes would have um, this container. It would be kept in the house, um, under the bed, and the potty would be used. If you wake up in the night and you need to pee, you know, then you would pull out the potty from under the bed. You would pee in the potty, and you would shove it back under the bed. You get back in your bed and you go sleep, right? In my home, or I can recall as a kid growing up, sometimes it was a two-bedroom house, so to speak, and I recall my grandma and my granddad out there, and then over here, two beds were in this room with my aunt, or was it my mom then, and another bed. Anyway, regardless, but I can recall as a kid, many times it was just one chimney in the house, just one, and so everybody had to use that one chimney, right? Occasionally we could afford two, but back then, most of the chimneys that we had were made of some kind of metal coated with enamel, and over time they got banged up and chip up and develop holes in them. So you know most homes could afford maybe just one at the time. You were lucky if there were two or three in your home. So as a kid, you want to pee in the night, you would get up, you would pull out the potty from under the bed, or the chimney. The common name that we use back home was the chimney. I guess in parts of Europe they called it the potty, and maybe North America. I don't know. I know Europeans would call it the potty. Back home we call it the chimney. So I pull out the chimney, and and you do your thing, you get back in bed. Now, for the most part, I'm not sure how this, I guess this was introduced to Jamaican, and I'm assuming many other Caribbean countries out of necessity, because of what I mentioned earlier, a toilet not attached to the house, a bathroom not attached to the house. Back in those days, it was generally pit pit toilets. Yeah, I forgot this. Not only do we, not only was it called a toilet or a shit house or whatever people, but it was also called a latrine. Yeah, the latrine. And I think in England or some other European countries, it was called the outhouse, right? So so because that 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 sort of amenity was not a part of the general house, people had to the chimney became an integral part of most homes, right? Now, over time, the chimney evolved somewhat from the metal enamel white container that you would find on the most people's bed, to plastic. I can recall in the mid to late 70s, the plastic ones became more prevalent. The thing about the plastic ones, though, while they were a bit more, they were chip resistant and all of that, they were much lighter. They held on to odors, you know, they cling on to odors, so they had to be washed and disinfected much better in the morning. Yeah, so you would use your pot in the night and in the morning. It may be you, or it may be another member of the household, your mom, dad, or whoever, would take that chimney and take it to the to the latrine and dump it down the latrine, right? Now, I'm gonna say something and it might make you cringe, but the fact that the toilets or most latrines were away from the house, what do you think would happen when you get up in the night and you want to have a BM, right? You want to have a bowel movement. I can recall as a kid, I'm not kidding. Many times we have to use this same chimney. If we need to have a bowel movement, we would do it right there in the house, right there in the bedroom. And what we would do, because you know, you never know when Mother Nature is going to call. It may be 2 a.m., it may be 3 a.m. Who is going to go outside at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.? Some of the darkest and most scary times of the night, right? To go to a latrine. Who's going to do that? Especially as a kid, right? So we would grab the, the chimney from under the bed, do our thing right there in the bedroom with it, and put it outside on the step until morning. We'll get up early morning and then we'll go dump it in the toilet. No, God forbid it was the only one in the house. That would pose a big problem. Having just one party. Yeah. So so get up in the morning and and dump it. And the funny thing, this might make you cringe too. There was this insect back home. This I'm gonna say it's a beetle. As I got older, I realized that this beetle was called the dung beetle, right? But the common name that we used back then was called the tumblebug. And this tumblebug, it might be animal droppings, whether it be donkey, whether it be goat, cows, or whatever. This bug used you'd see this beetle pushing dough, around the place. And I think they laid, they would lay their eggs in it, and and the young ones would also feed from it. So sometimes in the morning when we got up, they would end up in that potty, because that is what they thrive on. It's something that attracts them. If there's BM in it, that is what attracted them. So that was what life was like back then. Using the potty. And I mean, I think this was common for most people in my community around Jamaica in that time, living in rural communities. The potty or the chimney was a staple container in the house. Every home had one, right? Every home had one, because out of necessity, you need to use you need to pee at night, or God forbid, you need to have a bowel movement. And not only that, there are times as kids we eat so much junk, we get colic and sour stomach overnight, and we need to vomit. You know, that was another work for the potty again. So this was a multi-use container in that sense, right? So 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 the potty, like I said, was an integral part of most homes back then, and I'm assuming probably not just in Jamaica alone back in the 60s, 70s, when I was growing up as a kid, but probably many other Caribbean countries, European countries, South American countries, Asian countries. I don't know. So here's what I need you to do. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know whether or not this was a container that was common in around your time, in your country, in your home. Maybe it was called by a different name. Maybe you knew it by for for a different purpose, or for another purpose. I don't know. But let me know in the comments, what was it like for you as a kid growing up when at night you need to pee, and you never had a toilet attached to the house, right? Or a bathroom attached to the house. What was life like for you as a child, right? In that sense, right? It this was, this might sound like a foreign subject to kids who are growing up in this kind of ultra modern society where everything is at their fingertips. But I suspect, I really do, that there are many parts on Earth right now where people still don't have certain amenities that we take for granted. I really do. I believe that there are many parts of the world. You only have to watch TV to see some of these things. It's amazing that, you know, that in the what century are we living in? What century are we in now? The 21st century? That some of the conditions that people have to endure. It's amazing to see, amazing to even think of, you know? So while this may sound like a foreign subject, something like that might make a lot of people cringe when they hear me talk about, having to pee in a container overnight and keep it under your bed until daylight, or to have a beer minute and put it outside, dump it in the morning, wash it, turn it down outside during the day so that it dry out properly to be used again at night. Um, you know, while this may make some people cringe, trust me, man, I think there are a lot of places on earth today which may even have less than what I had as a kid growing up. So hit me up in the comments. Give me some feedback. What was life like for you as a kid? If you grew up around, that time, 50s, 60s, and maybe beyond, Like I said, I was born in the 60s, early 60s, so, I'm sure things were similar before then, right? All right, so until we talk again, take care of yourself, all right?